And number 5 is salaries and wages, which is usually 60 to 80% of the cost of operating any business. So you have to check on that. Number 6 is lead generation. How much does it cost you in advertising to generate a lead? This is really important because your cost of lead generation tells you the cost of the profitability of each sale. Number 7 is conversion rate. So you place an advertisement and the person comes into your store, and what percentage of those people actually buy something? That's the conversion rate. And so if you have a high conversion rate, then you have very good numbers in terms of advertising and sales. What if you attract a lot of people but nobody buys anything because they don't like the product or the service or something else? So number 8 is the cost of customer acquisition. How much do you pay to buy a customer? Every business is in the business of buying customers at a certain price. If you buy customers, all expenses included, at a lower cost than you pay to get them, you make a profit, your business grows. But if you pay too much to buy a customer, in terms of conversion rates, your company goes bankrupt. So, number 9, the average size of each sale. It's amazing how many companies have transformed by simply using marketing techniques to cause people to buy more and bigger each time. Average gross profit per sale, and then average gross profit margin as a percentage. I work with a company, one of my clients has 64 large furniture stores, one of the biggest furniture operations in the world. And he checks his sales every day and every week, and he always checks them in comparison with the percentage margin that he's earning rather than other companies. That's his number, and it's been his number since he was selling deck chairs. And by watching that number, they're able to analyze and assess the numbers of all the other stores. And the average net profit per sale. After 100% of all expenses have been deducted, how much do you actually have as free cash flow? Number 13, the average cost per sale. How much does it cost you in total to make a sale? And that includes shipping and electricity and telephone and insurance calls and rent and utilities and computers and wages and salaries and everything. And it's quite amazing. Sometimes the average cost per sale is more than the total net profit per sale. And because they're all hidden amongst other numbers, nobody notices them until the company goes broke. Number 14, and actually there's 35 numbers, I'll just give you the first 20. The average number of times a customer buys. What's the average number of times that a customer buys before they move on and buy from someone else? Number 15, the lifetime value of a customer. How much profit can you get from one customer if based on what they buy? My friend Lou, come to me in a second. But Lou started a grocery store, one of the best grocery stores in the world, and he tried to find out this number, so he began interviewing customers and asking them, how often do you buy groceries? Once a week. How often do you come here? Once a week they come here. And how much do you spend on average each time? It was $100. And what they calculated over time with highs and lows is the average customer bought from them for 10 years before moving away, and they bought an average of $100 a week, and they bought 50 times a year. So every customer represented $50,000 purchases, and their average profit in this store was about 10 or 12%, smaller store. And so they could calculate exactly what a customer was worth. It was worth $50,000 times 12%. So whenever a customer came into the store, they taught every single person in the store to imagine a $50,000 bill on the customer's forehead, going blink, 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 $50,000. And times 12 is what? 5 times, that'll be $6,000 in net profit. So they treated every single customer as though they were coming in with $50,000 to spend on product. They treated them with such incredible respect. People came from all over the world to shop at this store. They still do. It's called Lou Grocery Store. Shoot. It'll come to me. Anyway. So the lifetime value of a customer, so they could do all kinds of things. Pick people out to their car, take care of their kids, have recreation places and playgrounds and machines for children and so on, so that they could play while the mothers were shopping.
Is that the place in Maine?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's Lou. I had it written, I probably have it written down here. Shoot. Anyway, It's great. It's
I'm
Lou.
gonna Google it, I can't stand it.
Yeah, I can't stand it either. All right. His name is Lou's something milk store. So the average number of times a customer buys. Restaurants, I've worked with restaurants where they get the purchase up from once a month to twice a month and double their sales. Take a year of special service to get people to buy twice a month rather than once a month, and they double their profit from that customer. And lifetime value of a customer, sales per employee, an average number of times a customer buys. Once they're happy, if you can retain them, just like a dentist. Like our family uses a particular dentist, and they use these numbers. If they get this family to come to us, and the family has this number of parents or children, what is the average number of times that they will purchase from us? What's the average amount of money that they will spend? Lifetime value of a customer, sales per employee, sales per day, sales per week, sales per month. Many of the companies I work with calculate their sales even on an hourly basis. In our business, we calculate our sales every day. We know at the end of each day what our sales are, gross, net, number of sales, average size of sale, and profit. And I get those numbers sent to me anywhere in the world. So we always know. And if there's a glitch somewhere, we move very quickly to find out. Why? Well, maybe it's a holiday, maybe it's a weather, maybe something else, but we move quickly. Number 18, sales per specific product or service. Sometimes some products or services you sell are much more profitable, and some are not profitable at all, but you sell them because you think people like them, and you find out later that they don't care. Number 19, the average size of an upsell or cross-sell. Many companies can actually increase their profits by 50% simply by upselling their customers, by selling them something more while they're there that they hadn't thought of buying. Right after a customer is bought, by the way, is when they are most likely to buy again. Why? Because they like you, they trust you, they've bought from you, they've experienced you, they're emotionally happy. Everything is going right for them, and they say, why don't you take one of these as well? It goes well with that. And they say, sure, well, why not? It's just amazing. You can double the size of every order just simply by upselling a happy customer. And number 20 is the average number of referrals received, which is one of the most important numbers that you'll ever learn, which I will tell you. And finally, later, and your economic denominator. What is the one number that more predicts your success in your company than any other, both sales and profitability? And I'm going to say that at the first run through, you get the number wrong. And if you stay with the wrong number, you'll get your whole business wrong. And somebody else who's got the right number will eat you alive because of their sales and marketing efforts. So you really have to look for it. You really have to look at it. And this brings us to what I call the profit curve. Now, the profit curve is something that was developed by a company called Maricon and Associates in San Francisco. They charge about $25 million to come into a major multinational company and do a complete analysis of every product that they sell and show what products are making money and what products are not. But they analyze everything down to the number of paper clips that are required to make and process that order, which most companies never do it to that fine point. So many companies, they found, which is why they're so expensive, they save companies a fortune. Most companies are not even aware that, OMG, they're losing money on a product, and they thought they were making profit. So here we find is that when they come in, what they'll do is they'll find that, here we go. They'll find that if you have a multiple product company, that there'll be 3 products that are more profitable than any other products. And then there'll be 3 products that are more profitable than them, and then a couple more, and then they'll find that everything else is a loss. So whenever you read about a company where they're doing a rapid transformation, they're bringing in a new president, they're reorganizing the company, the first thing they do is they come in and they do this analysis that we talked about this morning, and they look at every single product to see how many products are making money and how much they're making. And this is what they find, is that as many as half of the products being manufactured and sold by a multi-product company, Apple being a perfect example, they're losing money. They're selling them all over the world. They're manufacturing them all over the world, and they're selling them by the shipload, but they're actually losing money because once they've taken off all associated costs, they don't make money at all. So what you'll find is that a turnaround artist, and I've worked with these people, a turnaround artist will come in, do a complete analysis of the costs and profits of all the products, and they go like this. One of the most famous turnaround operators of the last years was a man named Al Dunlop, and they called him Chainsaw Al Dunlop. And he could go into any company that was having any amount of trouble, and he would come in with a figurative chainsaw and transform the business. The first thing, he would just cut off everything that was not making a profit. And he would maybe give the people operating that division or that department, he'd give them 30 or 60 or 90 days to turn a profit by cutting costs or increasing sales prices and so on. Other than that, he would cut them off. So whenever you see in the newspapers where a company closes 12 factories, lays off 10,000 people, shuts down entire 500, 600, as they did last month, stores, retail stores and so on, they put in a turnaround artist who's come in and finally sat down with a microscope and found that they're losing money every time they do business with these products or these stores or these factories. And this is very common today. So that's why we go back to zero-based thinking. Once you have all the numbers, say, would we bring this product or service to market knowing what we now know about all the hidden costs? And then they bring in a person from the outside who has the courage to just to cut off the people, the factories, the stores, and everything else. So this brings us to the second to the last session, session 7, and we say create a great customer experience. And as you could tell from listening to me talk, I love this subject because I think this is the future. This is something brand new. It's like discovering computers or the email or applications. And creating a great customer experience, we say how people feel after they do business with you determines if they buy again. So everything is emotion. How warm do they feel towards you? Are they going to go home and brag about you and what a great experience they had with you? So a great customer experience, what does it do? Number one, it makes the customer happy, which we talked about before. If you don't do this, you can sell all you want. Maybe people will buy from you because they spent so much time shopping now, they just want to put an end to the process. But that doesn't mean that they'll ever come back. So it builds and maintains loyalty. Is the customers loyal to you for how well you've treated them? And number 3, it generates repeat business because they like you so much they want to come back and buy from you again because you make them happy. So remember, like I tell my wife, I say my main job in life is to make you happy and then to make them happy, our children. That's it. If I can accomplish that, then that's the most important thing in the world to me, is to make you happy and to make the children happy. Now we have 5 grandchildren, so it's making the grandchildren happy, and that's very hard. But that's the simple goal. So what is your job? Your job is the same thing, is to make your customers happy. That's it. Everything else is secondary to that in terms of longevity. So what would have to happen? This is a question that you ask. What would have to happen to create a great, perfect customer experience? What's the most important thing that you could do? And where do we find out these critical answers? Hello? We ask our customers. We get on the phone or we arrange a private appointment. We take them out for lunch or dinner and we ask them. Probably lunch is better, lunch or coffee. And we ask them, we say, look, we want to make you happy. Our business success is perfectly selfish. Our business success is totally based on how happy you are. So what can we do? And there's 4 different things that you can do. What might they be? Okay, we stay later. You could do more of some things. You could do less of others. You could start doing something or stop doing something. And if you ask your customers, they'll tell you. And if you do it, they'll be happy. And if they're happy, they'll buy from you and buy from you again and bring their friends. It's really not that complicated. But it's astonishing how many company owners, business people, managers are really so afraid of rejection or negative blowback, they won't ask their customers. They won't ask their customers. They talk amongst themselves. You know what Jeff Bezos has this year become the 3rd richest, actually this quarter, become the 3rd richest man in history. And he was way down for a long, long time, and then he jumped over everybody. He's now, last year he was number 4, the previous year he was number 12, now he's number 3. And what Bezos does is he has this obsession with making customers happy. Obsession, you see it in the company, he's obsessed with it. And whenever they have a meeting, like you're sitting at a table there, they have an empty chair, and at the empty chair is the imaginary customer. They never talk about anything in business without imagining that the customer is sitting there involved in the conversation and giving their feedback as they go along. It's a wonderful metaphor. It's a wonderful concept. It's just imagine that your best customer is sitting there listening and approving or disapproving of anything that you say that you're going to do for customers. It's a great idea. And, whoa, that's wrong. Okay. And what is the most important change that you could make right now to make your customers happy, to create a great customer experience? Or, as we say, the perfect customer experience. You know, one of the best examples of this is Nordstrom stores. And everybody who knows, do we have a Nordstrom store in Houston? Yeah. Nordstrom stores is phenomenal. What they do is just unbelievable in terms of making their customers happy. You get 6 women who shop at Nordstrom and put them around a table and give them a glass of wine, a bottle of wine, and they'll talk for 5 hours about Nordstrom's. And you put a camera up there, and if you're a competitor, you'd have tears in your eyes, thinking that this is what my customers say about my biggest competitor, because they just love Nordstrom's. They call it Nordy's. It's even got a personality. You going to Nordy's this week? Are you going to Nordy's this weekend? Nordy's. Unbelievable. Okay, we're doing real well here. We just get this darn thing to work. There we go. Okay, there's 4 levels of customer satisfaction. The basic level, the minimum for survival, is you meet expectations. You give the customer exactly what they expected to get, no more and no less. That will keep you alive. It's like holding your nose above the waterline. It'll just keep you from drowning if you meet expectations. If you want to grow, number 2 is you have to exceed expectations. You have to do more than the customer expected. A very simple thing is when a person in the grocery store, the manager, helps the person to the car with the groceries and unpacks them in the car. Or someone else runs out and helps people pack their groceries. You know, that's really nice, but you hadn't expected it. It's not what normally happens. But people remember that. Then they remember it with warmth and fondness. Number 3 is you delight your customers. You do things that are a real surprise to your customers. The customer just brightens up with this something extra that you've done. And if you delight your customers, by the way, or exceed expectations, what they found is that very soon their competitors will duplicate you. They will find out, and they'll duplicate you to match you so you don't have an advantage over them. And then number 4, and this is the highest of all, is you amaze your customers. You do things for your customers that they never thought. They're just shaking their head, just amazed that you would do something like this. There's a famous story that Nordstrom has. It's one of those great stories. This guy goes in, and he's going to a really big business meeting, applying for a job in Houston. And he has to fly down from Seattle. So he goes in, and he gets all the fittings, because they mentioned that they do alterations quite quickly. And he buys a suit for his interview. And they tries it on, everything's fine, He says, great. He said, I'm leaving this evening, I'm flying to Houston. How soon can I have it? And they said, I'm sorry, it's after 4 or 5 o'clock. He said, we can't do the alterations until tomorrow. Our tailors have left for the day. But I've got to have this tomorrow. I've got to have this suit tomorrow. They said, I'm sorry, the tailors have left. I don't know what to do. They said, I'll tell you what, give us your name and phone number of your hotel, and if there's anything we can possibly do, we will get it to you as fast as we can by air courier, but I don't think there's a darn thing we can do. So he goes, and he leaves on a late flight, and he arrives in Houston, and he goes to the hotel. He's got an old suit. He hasn't had a good suit for a long time. And he gets into the hotel room, and there on the bag is a brand new suit from Nordstrom's. And it's got a brand new shirt, which has been custom tailored to him, a brand new tie, brand new shoes, brand new socks and underwear, all laying on his bed. It was unbelievable. And you talk about amaze, you talk about how did they do that? They actually put it on a private jet flight, so it went faster than commercial jet, and got it there before he arrived there to go to the hotel. Now that story has been told a million times. Do you think that's good for business? Wow. I can tell you Nordstrom stories that you just sit here and you just beam when you hear these stories. And what you want to do is you want to shop at Nordstrom so that story or something like it can be true for you. Which brings us to the purpose of a business is to create and keep a customer. So the measure of business success, as we said before, is customer satisfaction. The measure of customer satisfaction is repeat business. This is really where the rubber meets the road. This is where the circle comes full circle. And so The true measure and purpose of a business is customer satisfaction. And there's several questions here that you can ask and answer about yourself and your business and incorporate the answers into your operations. But your business goals are, number one, to get them to buy from you first. If they're coming into the market, to buy from you first. I used to have a friend in real estate, residential real estate. His name was Larry. And Larry had this incredible way of developing customer loyalty so that anybody who ever bought a home from him would buy from him again. Not only that, they would tell their friends, and anybody that they knew who was ever thinking of buying or selling a home would go to him. And Larry never had less than 100 what they call pocket listings in the residential real estate industry. 100 people had called him up and said, would you list my house? And if you have a pocket listing, what that means is that you get 50% of the commission. You can put the listing on the MLS, and other real estate agents can sell it, and you get 50% of the listing. So pocket listings are the most profitable, highest income things that a real estate agent can have. He retired as a multimillionaire in a beautiful home overlooking the harbor in Victoria with a beautiful yacht down below. And people who dealt with Larry, his service was incredible. People who dealt with him years later talked about Larry Hahn, how I actually was able to buy a house from Larry Hahn. I was actually sell my house through Larry Hahn. People bragged about the treatment they got from Larry Hahn. Even today, although he's much older. But he retired wealthy. He had to buy a real estate company with 38 agents just to handle the listings that people kept bringing to him. He had to buy a company with 38 agents. And the fellow, Arv, who also went in as a partner with him, he just kept selling. And Arv kept hiring salespeople. He retired as a millionaire as well. Most amazing darn thing. So to get them to buy from you first, because if that doesn't happen, to get them to buy from you again, it'll be very hard. Number two, to get them to buy again. Maybe not directly like a home, but to have their friends and their relatives and their people at work to buy from you as well. And number three, to get them to bring their friends. Get them to tell all their friends, if you're ever going to buy a house, get it from this person. And so the ultimate question in business is, would you recommend us to others? Based on your experience with me and my company, with myself, would you recommend me to others? They've done many years of research to find out a question, and they spent many years to find out one question that would more predict a referral or a repurchase than any other single question, and this was this. It was actually developed by some of the best marketing people at Bain & Company, Mitch Romney's company that he started and built. Would you recommend us to others based on your experience with us? And they found that if a customer gave you a grade of 9 or 10, they would buy from you again and bring their friends. If they gave you a grade of 7 or 8, they would be happy, they would stay, but they would not recommend you to others or buy again. If they gave you a grade of 1 to 6, then that meant that they would buy somewhere else. So a 9 or a 10 was what predicted the future. So they'd ask them what kind of a grade. If they gave them a 9 or a 10, or give them less than a 9 or a 10, what question would they ask?
What would make it a 9?
Yes, what would we have to do to get a 9 or a 10 next time? That is the golden question in sales. But first you have to ask the first question to get an opening to ask the second question. And they'd say, well, if you did more of this or less of that, or if you started doing this or stopped doing that, I'd buy from you again and again. I'd have my relatives buy from you. And so they would go out and do it and make the customer happy, and the sales would just pour in. So you'll hear an expression, by the way, it's called Net Promoter Score. Net Promoter Score is one of the hottest buzzwords in management today. Net Promoter Score is you take the number of people who give you a 9 or a 10. Everybody in marketing knows this stuff now. They give you a 9 or a 10, and you deduct from that everybody who gives you a 1 to an 8. And that's your Net Promoter Score. And you can predict with absolute unerring accuracy your future sales and profits by your Net Promoter Score. And everything that you do to raise your score increases your Net Promoter Score, increases the likelihood that people will buy from you and tell their friends. And there's a book that I would recommend, and it's called The Ultimate Question. And it's by, it doesn't matter. But I read this book, and I just sat there kicking my feet, because it's such a beautiful business book. It is so helpful to people in business. You don't have to be a marketing genius. It just tells you all the things and gives you the examples of all the companies that went from struggling in the wilderness to being world leaders today, and they just put this question: would you recommend us to others, in the center of everything that they did in every customer communication. And I know, because I've visited these companies, I've talked to the executives, and this Net Promoter Score is an obsession with them. And as it became an obsession, they became the world's best. On a scale of 1 to 10, your score predicts your future sales. So a happy customer, we say, is 10 times easier to sell to than a new prospect, which means it takes 1/10 of the time and cost to get to sell again to a happy customer, because there's no cost, than to go to a new prospect. And a referral business, a referral is 10 to 15 times easier to sell to than a cold call or a new customer. It takes 1/15 of the time and cost. So the very best business in the world is repeat business or referral business or resale business. It's the best business of all. And so your job now is like those great battleship guns that they have on the battleships in World War II, where the gun moves and can literally blow another battleship out of the water. Your job is to start to move your guns and to start to focus more of your effort on making your customers so happy that they just buy again and again and again. In retention, I told you this, that the cost of buying a new customer acquisition, is 5 to 10 times higher than just putting your arms around your existing customers and telling them that you love them and please come and buy from us again. That's a little extreme. Now, so I have to tell you a quick story, and this story I was telling to my friends in Stockholm 3 years ago. This would be year 3, last year, year 2, the year before. And I told them all this, and I said, just imagine that if you made a sale to a customer, and the customer was really happy, and as a result, the customer came back and bought from you one more time in the next year. What would that do to your sales? So customer buys one, and then over the next 12 months, customer buys one more. Okay, this is not a mathematical genius question. Okay, 1 plus 1 equals 2. You would double the sales of your company in 1 year. Now, what if your customer was so happy they brought you a new customer, or they bought again every 6 months, twice in a year? They bought once, but they bought 2 more times. What would that do to the size of your business? 1 plus 2 equals triple the size of your business. What if the customer is so happy that they buy from you once every 3 months? What would that do to the size of your business? 1 plus 4, be 5 times bigger. Then, what if this customer brings you these people, and you are so nice to these new people that you take such good care of them that they also buy from you once a month? Well, once a month times 12 equals 144 purchases from one happy customer. And what I do is I sometimes, they say, well, that's nonsense, it's not possible, it can't happen, blah, 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 blah. I say, oh, you really? Shut your yap. That's what Apple did. They got everybody, hundreds of millions of people buying and going to buy again. And the people who are competing with them, who would ever drop off the Google app from their phone, drop off Yelp, drop off Uber? These people recommend, and they're recommending by the hundreds and thousands. They sued and burned cars to stop Uber from operating in Paris because they have a hyper-socialistic government, and the unions in charge of the taxis are just terrible. And finally went through all the courts, and the court said, you're asking us to pass a law against people who want a ride. We cannot use even the most socialist laws against ordinary people who just want a convenient, inexpensive ride. And they threw it out of court. Last month, Uber did 1 million deliveries in Paris alone. 1 million deliveries. And now they're multiplying out to every major city. Here's my point, is now what if each of these customers bought 12? That's 144. Wow, one customer could bring you 144 customers. And what if each of these 12 customers brought you 12 more customers? And it just went on and on and on. Is that possible? No, but it's worthwhile making a shot at. Now, here's why I wanted to tell you this story toward the end, is a gentleman came up to me in my seminar last fall, in October, in Stockholm. And this was a new seminar. The previous seminar was on the one-day MBA. And he told me a story. He said that he was there with 2 or 3 of his friends. They went back to the office, and they're in high tech, and they started talking about these numbers, the combination of the number. What is the most important number? And they agreed the most important number was the number of referrals that they were getting from happy customers. What is that number? Which they had no idea. They never tracked it. And so they started to track it. And they say, what's the most important thing we can do? And the answer is to get more referrals from happy customers. And so they said, well, how could you get more referrals? And they began to study different referral methods. They began to ask their friends. They began doing research. All this stuff is known, by the way. Now, all this information is available to you by tomorrow at 5 o'clock. You just have to look around for it. And they said, well, what would happen? So they would increase their sales, and they began working full court press on getting new customers, on getting referrals. And the only number they looked at every single day is how many referrals do we get per new customer? How many referrals this week, next week, and so on. They called their customers. They visited them at home. They got them presents. They asked them for advice and guidance. What should we do more of, less of, start or stop? What should we stop doing altogether? And what happened was, he said, last year, our total sales increased 15 times. 15 times. We are the fastest growing company in our technology in Northern Europe. 15 times, just with one idea, the number plus referrals, number of referrals. And that's all we think about. That's all we talk about. That's all we measure. We pay bonuses and rewards and everything else. And I was really happy. I mean, that's a wonderful story to illustrate what I had told them last year. And so we shook hands, and he moved on. And there's another fellow standing back, about 10 feet away. And after the other fellow had gone, he came up to me and he said, that was a great story. That was a really great story. I said, yes. The Swedes speak really fluent English. And I said, yes, that's very impressive. I know it's very possible, but I was still very impressive. He said, we came to your seminar a year ago as well. And we did the same thing that he did a year ago as well. And we increased our sales 34 times, doing the same thing that you told him to do that he did. We beat him by 2, 34 times. And what is the cost of doing something like this? It's almost nothing. It's thinking from beginning to end, how can you get and make more customers happier than ever before? If you can do that, you can transform the world. So this last chapter, we're just about done here. This last chapter I'm going to give to you for homework. It's called the summary and wrap-up. It's decision-making. We say the most important part of this day is what you do afterwards. And it's what you do quickly, what you get on with. Not talk about, as Howard says, it's implementation. So important. Action is everything. And so what we ask you to do, in the very back of this, there's a series of 7 questions. And what you do with these 7 questions is you say there's 7 changes that you want to make in your life. And number 1 is, what one change are you going to make? Stu Leonard, by the way, is the name of the... Stu Leonard, yeah. What one change are you going to make in your work as a result of today? And write it down. And then implement it as quickly as possible. What one change are you going to make in your family life as a result of today? And write it down, think on paper, and then implement it as quickly as possible. What one change are you going to make in your financial affairs? Now, these don't have to be big changes, but a small change is like a tugboat that starts to change an ocean liner. Just moves the front of the liner just a little bit as the ocean liner starts to move, and soon they can change the entire direction of the entire ship. The biggest ships in the world can be changed by a small change at the beginning. Number 4, what one change are you going to make in your health and fitness activities? More of, less of, start or stop. Number 5, what one subject are you going to learn or improve in? And there's always something. One subject can transform your life. Number 6, what one activity are you going to engage in your social and community life? And number 7 is, what one activity are you going to engage in to improve your spiritual life, which, of course, is more important than anything else. And then what one thing are you going to do first? And this really is the great question. What one action are you going to take immediately based on all the things we've talked about? We've probably talked about 200 or 300 ideas. And if you're writing things down, there's so many different things that we could do. But what you do is like starting an engine. The way you start the engine is you get started and then everything starts to go. The whole ship, the boat, everything starts to go. Just take the first step. Taking the first step is the big difference in success. So what I hope is that in the time that we've had together, and we've crammed a lot in, but Howard told me that you are very intelligent people and you can take a lot of information in a short period of time. Is that true? Did anyone not understand the question? And so I hope that you've enjoyed these ideas, and I hope that you immediately put one of these ideas into action, that you implement it immediately, and I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Brian Tracy, ladies and gentlemen, one more time.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. Hey, did he deliver or what? Yeah, look at this. Victoria, you get all these people. Stand up and get this. Look at this.
Thank you.
You ought to see how that looks from up here. Wow.
Great.
I'm going to tell you something, Brian. In the history of our conferences, that's the longest standing ovation we've ever gotten. So congratulations. All right?
Okay, thank you.
All right, see you in a little bit.
See you in a little bit.
All right,
Thank you.
here's David. Give it up for David, too, for coming along and helping Dad out.